I've kept quiet for too long, but the tension in my home has become unbearable. This story, a source of profound sadness and distress, began subtly, yet its shadow now looms large over my family. It's a tale fraught with manipulation, bullying, and deeply controlling behaviors, even disturbing accusations like falsified CPS complaints. My heart aches as I consider the path ahead. My husband and I are blessed with three incredible sons. Louis, our eldest, is 32 and engaged to Jessa, who is 36. Then there's Cyril, 27, who has been lovingly dating Rosa, also 27, for 5 wonderful years. And our youngest, James, 22, is happily married to Lucy, 20, and they have brought us the joy of our 2-year-old granddaughter, Letty. I am close with all my sons and their partners, cherishing the bonds we share, but my peace is shattered by Louis's choice. I am relentlessly navigating the complex, often fraught, dynamics within our family, primarily centered around my son Louis and his fiancée, Jessa. My initial, nagging uneasiness about Jessa, stemming from her divisive political stances, has spiraled into a deep-seated dread. This isn't merely about differing opinions, it's about a pervasive sense that she isn't right for my son, threatening our family's harmony. Now, I face a heartbreaking dilemma. Should my husband and I refuse to pay for Louis's rehearsal dinner because I simply cannot stand her? The question weighs heavily on my soul, consuming me with doubt and sorrow. I tried to ignore the subtle cracks, the deep differences, but Jessa's deceptive hostility towards James' wife, Lucy, was impossible to overlook. Jessa's snide comments, sharp as daggers, wounded Lucy. My heart ached. Jessa's wedding approached, a suffocating tension settling over us all, particularly concerning the rehearsal dinner. A fierce conflict raged within me. Paying for dinner felt like an unforgivable endorsement of Jessa's cruel treatment of Lucy, whom I cherish. My husband, bless his heart, urged me to let it go, insisting it was the only way to avert a full-blown family war. I yearn for loving, open relationships with all my children and their partners. Yet, I refuse to overlook behavior that so clearly causes pain to Lucy, who has become like another daughter to me. Would I be an asshole for standing firm, for withholding that payment? This gnawed at my conscience. But then, 2 days later, on August 2, 2025, an entirely new and devastating truth revealed itself. I invited my son Louis to lunch, hoping for a calm discussion about the rehearsal dinner and the impending wedding plans. What I discovered shattered my perception of our family's harmony. A chasm of significant tension between Louis and James. I hadn't realized its true, terrifying severity. Louis poured out his frustrations, accusing James of being relentlessly controlling and utterly unsupportive, especially regarding the wedding arrangements. The revelation was truly shocking, as my sons, Louis and James, were once so close, but now their bond frays and I find myself adrift, uncertain how to proceed. My heart aches to intervene, yet my husband insists they resolve their differences alone, fearing I'd only worsen the family drama. Should I involve myself, or merely watch as this painful story unfolds? With a wedding drawing near, tension is palpable. I'm left navigating my difficult, heartbreaking role. Update 2, August 9, 2025, just 1 week later. Please be kind. I confess I haven't been a perfect mother, nor an ideal mother-in-law. I know these aren't truly my battles, yet my family, my very world, feels as though it's irrevocably falling apart around me. Last weekend, my son James and his wife, Lucy, left for a concert. My husband and I stayed home with Letty, and we shared a truly wonderful time, though they FaceTimed us relentlessly every 2 hours all day Saturday. Saturday evening, Louis and Jessa invited us out to dinner. We told them we could go, but firmly insisted we'd need to be home by 8 for Letty's bedtime. The alternative. They could join us at our place, and we could simply get takeout, an attempt, perhaps, at a quiet evening. My invitation to gather for a rehearsal dinner discussion was met with an unsettling silence. I had assumed they simply wished to finalize details. No response came until I returned from church, when my son's text casually informed me they'd opted for somewhere nicer and dismissed the whole matter. It felt dismissive, a slight I couldn't quite shake. Everyone made it home safely that evening, yet Jessa and Louis pointedly skipped our family Sunday dinner the following day. The unspoken rift deepened a few days later. I was home with Lucy and little Letty when Louis arrived with Jessa, intending to retrieve the ring. Louis and Letty shared a special ritual. His ring call met with her joyful hello, followed by warm hugs and kisses. But this time he walked in, a wall of ice, utterly ignoring her. She rushed forward, arms outstretched, echoing her usual eager greeting, only for him to stride past, as if she were invisible. He grabbed what he came for, and they promptly left, but I stood there, utterly appalled by the heartless display. I turned to Lucy, suggesting we inform James about this cruel behavior. She hesitated, advising against it. But how could anyone be so openly hostile to their own niece, his goddaughter, no less, simply because of a quarrel with her father? The sheer injustice burned within me. This chilling incident led us directly to yesterday. I was out, blissfully unaware of the fresh drama about to unfold. While I was simply out grocery shopping, a dark shadow fell over our home, unseen by me. My husband was outside with James and our young daughter, Letty, when Louis arrived, bringing trouble rather than what he claimed. What started as a tense conversation quickly escalated into a brutal physical altercation between Louis and James. My husband firmly believes Louis instigated the violence. His immediate, singular instinct was to shield Letty, rushing her inside to safety. When he returned, the blows had ceased, and no one appeared physically hurt, but venomous shouts still filled the air. My husband, his voice unwavering, ordered Louis to leave. Once he complied, a visibly shaken James was sent downstairs to cool down. When I later asked my husband what sparked the fight, he admitted he truly didn't know. Everything had unfolded so rapidly. I've never seen him so profoundly shaken. The path forward remains uncertain, but I've reached a painful, yet clear, conclusion. This volatile dynamic is James and Louis's to resolve. I cannot bear the blame, nor can I fix this alone. My husband and I, united, told Louis he was no longer welcome. He erupted, accusing us of siding against him, twisting the painful truth with bitter, sharp words. The family drama continues, a burden I've reluctantly shared before. This latest update centers on my agonizing refusal to fund my son's rehearsal dinner, all because I simply cannot tolerate his fiancée. My heart is heavy with a sense of dread. My pleas for peace fell on deaf ears. Louis brutally attacked his brother, directly in front of his own child. It was a horrifying scene. Both men, despite their differences, desperately need safety from such volatile rage. Adding to this, Louis works for my husband, who, entirely within his rights, is now seriously considering demanding a drug test. The tension is palpable, suffocating our every interaction. The impending wedding, once a joyous prospect, now feels like an approaching storm. What viable course of action remains for me? My husband's solution is stark, pragmatic. Just give them the promised money and then disengage completely. This suggestion tears at my very core, yet I fear it's our grim reality, our only way out of this dilemma. James, perhaps out of desperation, often insists we merely get through the wedding, implying a magical resolution will then follow. I question his sincerity, his true conviction. I am profoundly sick with worry, overwhelmed by this relentless family drama. I search for a solution, but my hands feel utterly tied. What more can I possibly do? Amidst this personal chaos, I actively seek out special time with Cyril, my middle son. He is innocently caught in this cruel crossfire, and I absolutely refuse to let him feel forgotten or merely an afterthought. This tragic saga continues to unfold, leaving me drained and helpless, with an uncertain future ahead. I am utterly destroyed, my spirit shattered by the events that have relentlessly unfolded. This, I fear, will probably be my final update regarding this agonizing situation, and I deeply regret having to share such profound pain. As I mentioned in a previous entry, my husband and I recently confronted James, demanding that he finally reveal the full, unvarnished truth about everything. Lucy was then working, and he had just put our dear Letty to bed, so it was just the three of us in the quiet house. He stubbornly kept skirting the incredibly sensitive subject, his constant evasiveness fueling my internal fury. I finally reached my breaking point and exploded, laying down a stark ultimatum. Listen to me, James. You are currently living under my roof, in my home, and now you're physically fighting your own brother. If you absolutely refuse to disclose what is truly going on, your innocent daughter can certainly stay here, but you and Lucy will unequivocally need to find somewhere else to live if you insist on keeping such destructive secrets. His face contorted with raw anger. He steadfastly refused to answer me anymore. A bitter, drawn-out fight ensued for a bit longer, and then he simply retreated to his bed. I told my husband, with conviction, that I absolutely meant every single word, and he confessed his deep despair, unsure of what else could possibly be done. But then a truly unexpected glimmer of hope appeared. The very next morning, our brave son came directly to us and, at last, told us everything from his own critical point of view. The story, essentially, began for the 4th of July celebrations, when we had brilliant fireworks in our neighborhood. So Cyril, Rosa, Louis, and Jessa see the night's calm dissolved. We had ample guest rooms, and with Rosa's dog at her parents', everyone had imbibed a bit too much. Staying over was the only sensible option. Later, as my husband and I retreated to bed, the remaining guests continued their revelry. It was then that Cyril and Lucy, seeking a quiet moment, slipped out for a walk. There, in the dim light, they shared a joint. I harbored no judgment, yet a sense of unease always lingered regarding such choices. I had never witnessed Lucy high, but jokes often circulated about her preference for cannabis over alcohol. The only truly sober soul among them was Louis, fresh from LASIK surgery, which rendered him incapable of night driving and left him somewhat disoriented. The fragile peace shattered abruptly. Jessa discovered the illicit substance, and her fury erupted. She launched into a scathing tirade against Lucy, her voice sharp with accusation. Jessa declared herself a mandated reporter, asserting that with James having consumed alcohol, Lucy's marijuana use recklessly imperiled their child's well-being. Her condemnation grew, invoking the tragic specter of that kidnapped British child, utterly brutalizing Lucy with her venomous words. Wounded and visibly distraught, Lucy quietly retreated, seeking the solace of her room. James, a fierce defender, immediately confronted Jessa. He later confessed the exchange quickly devolved into a bitter, ugly verbal brawl. Their sharp accusations flew, each a stinging blow. James Colley kept quiet for a long time, but this story still makes me shiver. My husband, James, finally confronted Jessa about her cruel behavior towards me. Enough was enough. Jessa, unrepentant, coldly stated the truth. Our marriage, she declared, ridiculous, insisting we'd only wed for our baby and insurance, predicting inevitable divorce in years. Her words struck at our commitment's foundation. James, ever protective, retorted sharply. He accused her of bitterness, still unmarried in her mid-30s. I knew this was a painful jab. Her own engagement had ended when her fiancé betrayed her with a friend. But Jessa, far from being silenced, only sharpened her venom. She went for the jugular, asserting it was utterly embarrassing for James and me, along with our young child, to even be present at her upcoming wedding. She branded our family trashy, and then, with chilling cruelty, suggested our beloved baby would have been better off adopted by a nice family who was wanting a child. My heart fractured at her words. James' patience snapped. He told her, his voice dangerously low and firm, that if our presence truly embarrassed her, then his family wouldn't need to attend her wedding. It would be no loss to him. He then turned abruptly, heading inside for peace. The drama, however, wasn't quite finished. Louis, always the peacemaker, followed James into the house, pleading with him not to abandon the wedding plans. Everyone was just drunk, he offered weakly, a hollow excuse for such profound malice. The air remained thick with unspoken words and the sting of unforgivable insults. He spat cruel words, then offered a hollow promise. Jessa wouldn't call CPS. James, however, remained firm. He refused to be best man, forbidding his wife and precious daughter from Jessa's presence until a genuine apology. His resolve was unshaken. Then began the insidious campaign. The demand Lucy skip the reception, her sole purpose to watch Letty. The harsh decree that she must cease spending on anything not directly for their child. A suffocating control tightened around Lucy's every move, a chilling manifestation of possessiveness. Lucy, trapped in a vice of fear, simply acquiesced. She was terrified of challenging the unspoken rules that were becoming chains. My heart ached for James. He desperately tried to reassure her, to convince her no further harm would befall them. But panic had taken deep root in her soul, leaving her utterly consumed by dread, unable to break free. A chilling realization dawned. Had he kept this hidden because he, too, saw it as a problem? I had to ask. How often was she truly getting high? The question hung heavy, thick with unspoken anxieties demanding an answer. He merely laughed, a dismissive, jarring sound. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month, he shrugged, utterly unconcerned. And certainly not since the 4th. His casual tone, his dismissive air, sent a cold shiver down my spine. I knew cannabis was legal in our state, and my husband, Cyril, frequently indulged responsibly, over 21. This wasn't about legality. It was about something far more insidious. Lucy, caught in a spiral of profound embarrassment, desperately wished to shield my husband and me from this unfolding nightmare. Her shame was palpable, her desire for secrecy overwhelming. This clandestine burden she carried weighed heavily on us all. A dark cloud gathering over our family's peace and trust. A profound need gripped me. I had to hear my other son's perspectives, to understand the raw truth of this escalating family conflict. Cyril, my son, readily consented to meet my husband and me later that very day. His narrative, when he finally spoke, terrifyingly mirrored James, yet in some ways it was even more disturbing. He revealed that he and Rosa had remained outside, trapped in a bitter, unyielding argument with Jessa. My heart ached as I probed, asking if he truly believed Letty was being neglected, or if James or Lucy presented any genuine problem. His answer was a definitive, resounding no, a fierce dismissal of the accusations. With stark conviction, he declared that Lewis and Jessa were utterly out of their minds, seemingly driven by nothing but a desperate craving for drama. Cyril recounted that after James had abruptly departed the gathering, Jessa had continued her furious, unwarranted tirade against Lucy. Her claim was beyond absurd. Lucy, she insisted, was inappropriate with Lewis simply because a peculiar emoji adorned her name in his phone contacts. I knew the trivial truth. It was a simple car icon, a light-hearted jest from when Lucy had been Lewis's designated Uber driver before he regained his license. The sheer pettiness turned my stomach, but the venom didn't cease there. Jessa then unequivocally stated her refusal to allow me to care for her children if Letty were present, her baseless reasoning being that because Letty's parents were teenagers, she would inevitably become a detrimental influence. The truth, once whispered, began to unfurl its dark, inescapable tendrils, casting a grim shadow over our hopes. Cyril, his voice heavy with despair, confessed his and Rosa's agonizing decision to withdraw from the impending wedding. Yet James, desperate to staunch the bleeding of drama, had pleaded with him to remain. Cyril further revealed his persistent attempts to reason with Lewis, asserting with chilling clarity that while Jessa undeniably bore significant blame, Lewis, through his passive complicity, was in fact the architect of much of their undoing. This devastating cascade of revelations left us profoundly shaken, our hearts heavy with a sense of betrayal. We immediately sought out Lewis, our confrontation filled with a desperate need for answers, for his side of the shattering narrative. But he stubbornly, agonizingly, continued to sidestep our questions. My patience, frayed and thin, finally snapped. I made my position unequivocally clear. We recounted, in stark detail, the gravity of his brother's accusations, demanding to know, without equivocation, if any of it was true. I had, in my hopeful naivete, desperately wanted him to present his full, unbiased story, to defend himself. But he remained obstinately silent, refusing to utter a single word until I painstakingly relayed every damning detail James and Cyril had confided in us. Then, the final, bewildering blow. He did not deny a single accusation. With an unsettling calm, he simply assumed I was already privy to the entire sordid mess. He was convinced that James had not only informed me, but had also conspired, orchestrating a scheme for me to deliberately withhold financial support, unless Lucy received a wedding invitation, a baseless accusation that visibly ignited his fury, setting him off in a dangerous spiral. A profound, chilling unease settled deep within my soul. I had to know. I pressed him, my voice trembling with the weight of it all. Did he genuinely believe Letty was being neglected by Lucy or James? This was paramount. They lived under my roof, within the sanctuary of my home, and their safety was my sacred and unwavering responsibility. I pressed him, needing to know if he genuinely believed our concerns for my granddaughter's safety were justified. He sidestepped, his accusation sharp. This just proves all you care about is James and his kid. James needs to realize he isn't perfect. His words stung. I repeated my urgent question. Again, he skillfully avoided it. My husband, witnessing his flustered, meaningless rant, cut through the noise. Can you pass a drug test? The challenge hung heavy. He then inexplicably brought up a relaxed conversation Jessa had been part of. Even now, I'm mystified why it would cause her distress. I saw the deep wound in Lewis's eyes, a pain my husband instantly regretted inflicting. Lewis retorted, "The only person you should be drug testing is Lucy," before ordering us out. The tension was suffocating. Yet, surprisingly, the next day a confirmation arrived. He'd taken a drug test at our trusted lab. When the results returned, he passed. A peculiar development. Later that week, a final, poignant blow. He handed in his notice to my husband. He's taken a position at another company, leaving behind a silence fraught with unanswered questions, and a deep, lingering sorrow. News of a competitor cast a thick dread upon us. My husband was devastated, his world crumbled. He knew Lewis conspired. Such offers don't materialize from thin air. The betrayal cut deep, leaving an open wound. Lewis's notice was swiftly paid out, marking his final day, a void left in his wake. In the wake of this profound upheaval, after our painful confrontation with Lewis, my husband and I began charting a new course. We both understood, though with heavy hearts, that the boys involved would ultimately need to resolve their bitter drama themselves. To be entirely honest, after diligently gathering every perspective, our sympathies leaned heavily toward James and Lucy. We acknowledged their missteps, yes, but Jessa's intense reaction struck us as a severe, almost vindictive, overreaction, especially after months of her own rude bullying. We considered every possible remedy. Direct conversations, professional therapy, anything to stitch our fractured family back together. Yet, fate, cruel and swift, had other plans for us. That Tuesday, our agency was stripped away, replaced by a chilling, inescapable reality. It was, without doubt, the most harrowing day for many of us. I was at home with Letty and Lucy when a caseworker from Family Protective Services appeared at our door. She had arrived, unbidden, based on a report filed against us. We were utterly unprepared for the storm that would follow. A chilling dread had settled over our home. We endured the interview, the caseworker's walkthrough, a silent judgment hanging in the air. I held my breath for an official notice, yet the caseworker, surprisingly gentle, stated she found nothing warranting further action. Still, she left resources for Lucy and James, a small mercy, perhaps, but a stark reminder of the intrusion. They are utterly traumatized, a raw, shared agony that grips my own heart. Since Tuesday, they cling to Letty, an almost desperate hold, as if at any moment someone might tear her from their grasp. Even Letty, innocent as she is, mirrors their profound sadness. I've talked repeatedly with Lucy, who insists she only ever smoked on weekends, never when Letty was awake. I believed her, even as she desperately offered a drug test. I tried to reassure her. No one takes a happy, healthy, and safe child from loving parents, even if she smoked daily. But her eyes betray her. She does not believe me. That fear is too deeply ingrained. That evening, James' boiling rage finally surfaced. He confronted Lewis, not in person. Lewis refused that, but through a searing text. He demanded an answer. Was it Lewis or Jessa who ignited this hell? Lewis's chillingly callous response, "It doesn't matter," was the final devastating blow. James, his voice shattering through the screen, declared Lewis dead to him. Then he blocked him. Forever this family drama casts a long shadow. Rosa, heartbroken, withdrew from the wedding. Cyril, my son, remains best man but won't attend reception or speech. He desperately wanted to back down, but Louis, his brother, convinced him to stay for the ceremony. I told Cyril he should do what he thinks is best. He confesses he still wants to drop out, fearing it might lead to something worse from Louis and his partner. His voice, utterly heartbroken, held a bitter edge. There's still time for them to turn against me, to try to ruin my life. We'll see how this goes. I believe he's trying to protect his little brother by not further infuriating them, but I can tell how profoundly miserable he is. My husband and I are completely broken about all of this. We confronted Louis directly. While we would always love him, we made it agonizingly clear we could not support him or his marriage. How could we, after he and/or his fiancée shamelessly wasted precious CPS resources, weaponizing them for cruel revenge on his own brother? We told him he needed to come over and get the rest of his stuff, the documents we were keeping for him, his cherished childhood treasures. This was a painful line in the sand. The betrayal runs too deep to ignore. That wouldn't have fit his apartment. He demanded precise timing, insisting we disclose when James and his family would be absent. An audacious overstep, a blatant disregard for boundaries. Perhaps unwisely, but the moment he arrived, we confronted him. Our voices steady, we pressed. Did he truly believe his niece was in danger? A desperate, raw question. His response chilled me. He scoffed, his thoughts irrelevant, convinced we'd always defend James. He truly believed James would get over it once this storm passed. Cruel, deluded. I met his dismissal with cold truth. He will not get over this. My voice shook. He will never see his brother or his precious niece again. My words, a definitive severing, the gravity hit him, his bravado crumbled. He backtracked, asking us to tell James to call him. A desperate, belated plea, but we stood firm. That call would never happen. He erupted, rage replacing desperation, blaming us entirely. You should have made James figure out his own life, not bobbied him. Pathetic deflection. My anger exploded. I screamed, if you'd had your own way, I'd still be doing your laundry and I remember the quiet struggle, always packing his lunch, always reminding him he had lived here longer than James ever had or ever would. This constant battle for recognition, for belonging, finally erupted. My husband and Louis clashed, their voices rising in a bitter symphony. Louis, defiant, declared he would forge his own family, that he no longer needed us. He hurled accusations, blaming us for every single one of his struggles. My patience, a thread already frayed, snapped. I told him with a steely resolve that if he could only offer empty accusations, without a shred of evidence or explanation, he needed to leave. He never even mentioned the money, but I was ready. I had decided to tell him I was diligently saving every penny, preparing for the inevitable lawyer. For all of his ridiculous, baseless claims. For his utter bullshit, as I so bitterly thought, it would be so simple, so convenient to blame Jessa. Her insidious influence is undeniable, visible in every twisted turn. But the harsh truth is this. My son, Louis, is the root of the problem. He, or his fiancée with his full knowledge and unwavering support, has committed an act so monstrously unforgivable. He will never again be welcome in his brother's family. It will be an eternity before my husband and I can even bear to look at him. Yet, a mother's love is a stubborn, unbreakable thing. I will always love him. If I received a call tomorrow, an urgent plea that he needed a kidney, a lung, bone marrow, anything, I would go straight to him, without a moment's hesitation. A profound sadness, unlike any I've known, aches in my heart. I had promised to support him completely, even working nights to fund his rehab if needed. But his actions, an unforgivable betrayal for which he has offered no apology, have irrevocably changed everything. The unsettling thought of never knowing, much less meeting, his children now feels like a deep soul sickness. I simply cannot forgive him for this. Recent weeks brought a maelstrom of conflict, shattering trust. It began with Jessa, her anger blazing, threatening CPS on Lucy for marijuana on the 4th of July. James, fiercely protective, attacked Jessa, sparking a bitter, ongoing feud. As we grappled with the chaos, Louis began acting strangely. We asked for a drug test, he passed, then abruptly left my husband's company for a competitor. The final, crushing blow. A CPS report filed against Letty, either by Lewis or Jessa. Though nothing was found, Lucy and James are deeply traumatized. The wedding, once a joy, is now irrevocably canceled. My sorrow is boundless. A chilling realization struck me. Lewis, it seemed, viewed James as the golden child. A notion my painful experiences sadly corroborate. The accusations sting deeply, echoing my eldest son's bitter words. Lewis believes I favor James, my youngest. It's a painful truth. James needs us more now, he's struggling. We poured years, hundreds of thousands, into Lewis, supporting him through his difficult journey, helping him reach a stable place. His brothers never complained then, never whispered about favoritism, they saw our support. Now, only Lewis voices this resentment. Our middle son, thankfully, sees no favoritism, a small comfort. Perhaps we could have navigated things differently, avoiding this bitter situation. But those chances are gone, and here we stand. And then there's the looming weed issue. A commenter offered clarity. In their state, even pre-legalization, CPS wouldn't remove a child over that alone. Their primary concern is simple. Is the child well cared for, fed, clothed, properly housed? If yes, they prioritize far graver cases. A report would state a home visit was made and all is fine. It would appear on our parental records. This knowledge offers a faint glimmer of hope, but it doesn't erase the family rift. The future feels fragile, the threat loomed, a chilling uncertainty with no end. We were told that records would be held 5 years before long-term archiving, but the immediate future felt more pressing. Getting answers about our next steps has been arduous, met only with reassurances there are none. We've never navigated such treacherous waters. It's not about needing to prepare for a caseworker's arrival. It's the unrelenting, constant threat that now suffocates us with dread. The bitter rift between Lewis and James began with a petty squabble. Jessa, my son's fiancée, had a falling out with a friend. This friend, in an act of malicious betrayal, forwarded a screenshot to James. It contained Jessa's vile, cruel words about James and Lucy. When James confronted Lewis, my son foolishly dismissed it, urging James not to take it so personally. That dismissal, that casual disregard for the hurt inflicted, ignited a fuse. James, wounded and enraged, retaliated with his own cruel jab at Jessa. In a flash, Lewis's fist connected with James' face. A brutal, unforgivable punch. This painful truth, though mentioned in my original recounting, remained a secret from my son, a silent burden I carried. The fallout was catastrophic. My son, in his desperate loyalty, shattered his bonds with the entire family. It was clear, with chilling clarity, his fiancée achieved her insidious goal, complete isolation. There was no turning back from the line he crossed involving CPS. The chasm was too wide, the betrayal too deep. We grapple with the debris of a broken family, a scar that will never truly heal. The bitterness, a poison, seeps into our family's very core. I grapple with the harsh truth. While my door stays open for my son, his siblings see no path to reconciliation. Their once strong bond lies shattered. I can only pray he comes to his senses, though hope dwindles. As a mother, I cannot sever ties completely, but his brother, Lewis, found the courage to cut him off. I don't blame him. It's a deep wound refusing to heal. The advice I received resonated. My door might stay ajar for my son, but it must be irrevocably shut for Jessa. She needs to apologize, to seek the therapy she desperately requires. But forgiveness for Jessa? It's a concept that no longer exists for us. No one intends to offer it. While I cannot abandon my son, the dream of seeing my boys reconcile is non-existent. It's a profound grief, as if he died, leaving an unbearable, hollow void. The weight of Lewis's accusations burdened Lucy, his sister. They were incredibly close. She never once refused him a ride, unless truly preoccupied with class or work. Our area offers no convenient public transportation. We are utterly car-reliant. Lucy knew Lewis spent significantly on Ubers, knew he desperately saved every penny to move out. Her empathy was boundless. This betrayal, it cuts deep. My heart aches with a quiet despair, for a profound betrayal has wounded us. Lucy, my dear friend, has finally admitted her deep sense of betrayal. Lewis, once family, was the first person outside her parents to ever hold my precious Letty, entrusted with her very existence. He even used to fund James and Lucy's dates, lovingly watching Letty. Their bond was incredibly close. Now, I fear they may never speak again. Letty asks for him daily, and her innocent questions tear at my soul. I truly wasn't lying. I would honestly, without hesitation, give an organ to magically fix this shattered reality. Regarding Lewis and Jess's wedding, we will not be attending. My husband, Cyril, firmly wants to avoid further drama, despite Lewis's intense pressure on him. Cyril is desperate to prevent any worse outcomes, but has conceded only to the ceremony itself. He absolutely will not be taking pictures afterward, nor will he attend the reception. His presence will be fleeting, distant. This raw story, still unfolding in painful increments, needs to be shared. The latest chapter arrived over a month ago, a silent testament to enduring agony. On September 1, 2025, merely 2.5 weeks after the previous update, Lewis finally confronted Lucy. I share this here, not for solutions, but simply to unburden my heavy heart, to cast this weight from my chest. This weekend, James' absence for his bachelor's party brought an unexpected tension. Yesterday, driven by Letty's incessant, soda pop song, "I love her, but my patience had vanished," I sent Lucy to get Mums. A simple errand turned confrontational. Lewis, fueled by fury, accosted Lucy. He raged about James, ignoring Lucy's own pain. He demanded she leave him, branding James an asshole. The cruelest blow, he declared he was removing their shared tattoo, a public, painful severing. Lucy was deeply shaken. Now Lucy struggles with telling James. She knows his temper will explode, unleashing fury. I advised against hiding such an event, stressing transparency. Still, I question my own counsel. Do I truly trust my own judgment these days? This secret weighs heavily. Amidst this, a beacon of joy, I almost forgot the wonderful news I actively highlight. Cyril and Rosa, after diligent search, had their house offer accepted. The best part? Their new home is incredibly close, a 10-minute walk or a 3-minute drive. I knew they were looking with fervent hope, and their dream is a vibrant reality. This offers solace, a reminder of happiness and new beginnings. I used to believe I had a clear understanding of my family, but now I'm caught in a situation that is anything but clear. My heart aches for what my family endures. It's devastating to watch someone dear to you, like Lewis, spiral down a toxic path, forcing you to create a painful distance for your own well-being. I hold onto a fragile hope that he will see the damage he's causing before harm becomes irreparable. Despite the immense difficulty, I am constantly reminded of my strength as a mother and grandmother, a truth I will never forget. The infuriating part is his absolute oblivion. Lewis, once so thoughtful and considerate, now seems utterly blind. He remarked, "I know James is angry with me," completely missing the gravity of his actions. Then, when my daughter Lucy, in her raw pain, confronted him directly with, "I'm angry with you," he stood there, genuinely perplexed, utterly unaware of why she would feel such a way. This profound lack of insight devastates me right to my core. Whispers have surfaced, questioning if Lewis harbors inappropriate feelings for Lucy, with Jess's suspicions adding a layer of dread. But I cannot believe it. He has known Lucy since she was a mere 14 years old. He would never cross that boundary, never betray such a deep-seated trust, and certainly never in a way that would bring further anguish upon us. I've kept quiet for too long, grappling with the bewildering situation surrounding Lewis. His behavior is a profound mystery, unlike the man I knew. He's nearing 30, an age for maturity, not this perplexing detachment. It's genuinely hard to comprehend the why of it all. I often feel utterly lost, trying to make sense of his sudden withdrawal. My heart still aches for Letty. She missed him desperately, his abrupt absence a shock to her young world. Yet in our recent, accidental meeting, Lewis surprisingly acknowledged her, acting genuinely sweet. This fleeting normalcy only deepens the enigma. I simply cannot understand his problem, the dark cloud that has enveloped him. This profound lack of explanation haunts me. Aside from that brief interaction, Lewis remains out of reach. We've had no further contact, no attempts at reconciliation. Cyril, despite everything, is still set to be his best man. It's a decision rooted in their shared past, though their current interactions are minimal. A palpable silence growing between them that speaks volumes about their strained bond. A small, much-needed joy arrived with Cyril and Rosa securing their new house. We are all thrilled to have them closer. While they're still contemplating children, their presence nearby brings a wonderful sense of hope and continuity. This happiness anchors me amidst the lingering sorrow, a quiet beacon promising a different kind of future. I cling to these small comforts. I often doubt my own judgment, especially now. The advice poured in, a torrent of well-meaning words, but the circumstances feel overwhelming. Cyril's role in the upcoming ceremony weighs heavily on my mind. What message does it send? Others question it, and frankly, so do I. I've always known Cyril as someone who shies away from conflict, a true drama avoider. Yet, being the best man in this situation, it feels like an act designed to stir the pot, not calm it. I recall mentioning that they hold something against him, a silent accusation that haunts me. I pray it won't escalate into a significant concern. Sometimes, I find myself checking online profiles, seeking some connection, some reassurance. My heart aches for a positive resolution for my family. This situation consumes my thoughts far more than just a fleeting pastime. It's true, Cyril does avoid confrontation. But the painful truth is, my youngest son has pleaded with him, practically begged him, to take on this role. He believes it's the only way to prevent an even larger family's conflict, to avert a true catastrophe. Cyril, in his quiet resolve, has agreed, but with conditions. He won't attend the reception. No bachelor party. He and Rosa have already made their own plans for that evening, a quiet escape from the brewing storm. Meanwhile, James and Lucy are taking Letty to the Rocky Mountains for the entire weekend, a much-needed reprieve, a breath of fresh air amidst the chaos. I desperately hope this gamble pays off, that peace can finally find its way back to us. We simply could not make it. Our diaries were full, regrettably. I had to know the date. "When is the wedding?" I asked. The reply was clear. It was set for October, a real conflict.